And we are live. We back at it again. All right. So, you know, I told you we was gonna be doing it today. If he's here yesterday on the last video, this is not a surprise to most. We're gonna be talking about generational wealth. And just to try to, kind of cite some things and get some things cleared up and not have some things that are actually misconstrued. You know, one of the biggest, you know, issues that I've heard or had people talk about was dealing with the transferring of wealth through generational wealth. So I actually went to Google and put the comment down there in the chat so people can, see the what is actually generational wealth. Cool gamer, boss lady Denise. Now, the crazy part is this. Getting into generational wealth, and like I said, I've been hearing this, and that's why I always try to speak on the generational wealth. It's mainly through people looking at having a job transferring over to their kids. Lonzo, what's going on? And that's one of the things that I've always tried to tell people. You're transferring over a debt to somebody, or you actually let me bring it back. Transferring over a company is one thing. Transferring over a job, 9 times out of 10 can't be done. You're actually just, you're working for somebody, or you're just inheriting, the debt, or some type of servitude contract dealing with others. Because when you really, really look at it, when it comes down the line, you're not you're not giving nobody a job, you know, unless you're pristine at a company, and they feel as if you're such a great employee that you're a big asset, and they think your child will be the next up. But then they would have to know, like, this child has been a student of the game, or actually been working in this field to transfer, you know, a job. So, that's why I always kind of, try to get people to clear that gray line between a company and doing it for, just more or less uh, a employee. So getting that out the way, we're focusing more on the assets, you know. And like I said, I actually end up going into Google, setting that up on Google, and pulling the definition. So can't get it misconstrued there. Actually, get it from the horse's mouth, as people say. But the transferring of assets. Now, as you see, includes stock, cash, bonds, investments, real estate, and family business. Now, the catch with the family business, it's different than a job. You know, you have let's say a tire shop. Someone has a tire shop, and ultimately, you're transferring that tire shop, the ownership of the tire shop, into the next of kin, or just within the family name, keeping it a family business. Now, you're transferring ownership, technically same as the job, but you're more or less transferring ownership. You're not transferring, the job title, and someone else owns the company, you know. So, Erica, what's going on with you? A long time. Hey man, you tell your boy Raw, man. I ain't seen him in the streets in a long time, unless I just ain't getting a notification. I gotta get back with him and shoot him my number. We gotta hit back on behind the scenes, keep it going for the for the 2 0 to the 2 4. But generational wealth, a lot of people, hear it. They want to say they're practicing, they're preaching it. You know, they're trying to make it something that's good for everybody. Generational wealth is not going to be good for everybody because you got to understand, always talk about doing the research. You got to actually know what you're getting yourself into, know how to create generational wealth, and how to push that asset forward. A lot of people are just not doing that. A lot of people are, you might buy a house, don't pay it off, and you're passing that debt on to your kid, you know, but the asset is greater because you got to understand, once they finish paying that house off, they're good, you know, but you're in a situation to where you're giving your child this house and they can't afford to pay their own house or wherever they live. Prime example. All right, thank you. So I always talk about this story because, my brother kind of enlightened me on this with his friend to where his grandmother passed. No one wanted the house. Everybody has a nice modern house. And this is an older house, preferably on the west side of Atlanta. And on that side, you had a lot of black old money, say the least, you know. And far as with the black old money over there, those people kept their houses up and everything, for the most part. But his grandmother passed and no one wanted the house, and when they found out that she had a will and she willed the house to the grandson was like, man, I stay in the condo downtown. Why would I want to go and get a house on the west side? And I want to see the house. It's got a hole in the floor, hole in the roof. Everything needs updated. Man, I don't want to go through all this process of updating, this whole thing. I'd rather just, take my chances and just stay in my house and sell this house, you know? And that's the thing about that generational wealth that I'm talking about. He actually wanted to sell the house because to him it was worth more. It was paid off. He had a guy coming to him trying to give him 400,000 for the house, as is. You know, that was the most he's ever got. I think he was saying in I guess years before, his grandmother was getting offered 200,000, same condition, 300,000. Uh, the condition, no matter what. But 400,000 was the most he ever got for an old house on the west side. Like, man, the neighborhood is good, you know, and to the average person, they don't know how to comp areas. They don't know how to, you know, compare rates, like most. All you know is somebody tell you, man, your house is worth 400,000. Several times I had people call me, say, man, we'll give you 200,000 for your house, any condition. Roof messed up, anything, furnace, we'll get it, any condition. I'm good, you know. And somebody calls, say, hey, your house value went up to 210 or something like that, and was like, do you want to sell? Nah, I'm good. So I actually dealt with a guy who was a broker, and he came in, assessed it. What's going on, conscious? Came in and assessed the house. And it was like, your house is worth 260, and increase it. So for anybody to tell you that your house is only worth 180, 200,000, they're just trying to get you on a good deal. This is the assessment of how much your house is worth. I was like, man, it's good. Hey, conscious man, we got to meet up, dog. This you round the corner in my neck of the woods, but we'll talk about that later. But for the most part, the guy actually took my brother's advice, went on ahead, got his grandmother house, and he ended up breaking the lease on his condo and went on ahead and moved into his grandmother's house. Now the guy was paying, I think he said the sum of almost 1,500, 2,000, whatever, every month. You know, plus little amenity stuff that they was paying, HOA, whatever, probably. And he was taking that money and investing it directly into his grandmother's house. He's got the kitchen redid, got the bathrooms redid, got the roof fixed, got the hole in the floor fixed, all that. And little by little, he turned his grandmother's house back into a mansion. Family came over, they was ecstatic, they was excited, and that's the thing. Coming into a house with no mortgage, it gives you more room, more playing field to do things, And needless to say, like I say, in most cases, it's not like you're really giving them a lot of debt due to the transfer, that when that house is paid off, it'll be so much more in advance to, work with. Lisa J, what's going on? I see you. And, just saying the least, having that house is one of the most biggest assets on transferring wealth, And a lot of people have properties, land. Don't you know having a house is the same equivalent with land? I was briefly talking about this yesterday, where a guy at my job, bought some land out in Wintersville near Athens. Athens is, UGA, the big college town out there in Georgia on the outskirts. And literally, he bought 10 acres, $500 an acre. The same area that he bought where he stays at now, that he has the 10 acres on. He said in the same area, they're going for anywhere from 7,000 to 12,000 for 1 acre. And he was like, man, I didn't pay that for all 10. And now just 1 acre is going from 5 to 12,000. And then you look at the fact of the matter is he has 10 acres. Someone comes out there that's a developer and don't really have as many houses around him. They can come out there because they have a lot of it out in Athens. Because like I say, I go out there for work anyway. But they have a lot of townhouses out there. You can fit at least about 4 duplexes or even more than that. But just for the room, at least, I would say 8 duplexes. Because then that give you at least another 2 acres for parking and enough room. Because on average, a house mostly on average covers anywhere from one third of an acre. Sweet thumb, what's going on? What's going on with you? On average, most houses only cover 1/3. Even the biggest mansion might push over an acre. Because on most people just not having all that, rooms like that. I know a guy right now, he has 2 acres, but I think his house more or less sits on 2/3, almost 2/3 of an acre. The rest of it is his driveway, everything else, to the sum of it. But majority just 2/3. And I'm like, sheesh. And this guy has a nice house. 7 bedrooms. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms. Yeah, 7 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms in this house. I'm talking about 3 stories, back patio. Miss V, seen you this morning. I shared that video. A lot of people, they're gonna be start coming over to your channel because everybody's trying to learn how to, properly do their YouTube channels and dealing with Miss T. She's trying to get everybody in line with being monetized and helping them grow their channels and learning how to, transfer things. Because it's gonna be it's a lot of questions people are asking, and run over to your channel. I dropped that link this morning that you had. Monitor for subs and the the difference between standard. Um, you know, when it comes down to it, as far as assets, you look at stocks, funds, a lot of that's got to be put into a will or a trust. Because most of the time, if you don't have these things and either of those, it goes into probate and it's a fight amongst family, or it just go back to the state. You know, and in most cases, you know, you have these celebrities like Michael Jackson owning all these assets. Look how Sony got all that. They got the Beatles back. Sony got Elvis. I think it was Elvis collection. I don't know who took Elvis, but I know Sony mainly got the Beatles. They end up getting a lot of his music, Michael's music, and got all the masters. So the family's not getting that money. I don't think. The money's going directly back to them. You know, Whitney. Look at her dying. Prince with him dying. I mean, the thing with Whitney, I don't know. That's kind of they. I don't think they could really play that game with her too much because her dad was like the VP of Coke. So Whitney came from money, but more or less, looking into the series, Prince, like all those assets, family fighting over it. Aretha Franklin actually found out that she had two wheels, one up under her sofa and one that she had in the safe. And they actually took the one that was up under the sofa cushion and used that one as her most recent will to grant access to her kids and dividing her assets evenly, amongst that she had on the paperwork, you know. And and just saying this, a lot of these celebrities dying with no wills, no trust, and you look at the common person like, well, I don't have anything to leave. You know, I always talk about my friend. I never say his name though, but he's an older gentleman, and he was saying that he didn't have no kids, so why would he get a life insurance? And I was like, so you don't have no nieces and nephews, anybody that you can make their life better. Because I understand if you say you don't want to buy it for an older person, buy it from your mom because they might pass before you. That's understandable all day. I mean, granted that putting your mom or a close to kin, far as on the paperwork, I'm having a bad brain freeze right now. To get your life insurance and to far as your burial expenses and everything, that they'll be the ones handling that. But other than that, like you don't have no family member that you can trust or deal with or have your best interest or that you want to uplift. Prime example, I told him, I said, I met your younger nieces and nephews. I haven't met his older two, but the younger niece and nephew, vibrant young kids, full of energy, ready to learn, love their uncle. And I say, you don't want to leave nothing to them? And he's like, oh man, you right. Yeah, you right. And I was like, dude, you know, even with me before I was married, before I had kids, I had life insurance. I had my grandmother on there just in case anything happens while, you know, any foreseen thing. And then I had my friend's son, which is my godson, you know, telling my grandmother anything happens, for her more or less to give him some money, and if possible, if she can hold it or give it to his dad and make sure he gets it when he turned 18, but letting him know of the money that, I gave it to him. And in most cases, you have families that do that for the kids, grandmothers especially. A lot of times you're dealing with the grandmothers. Grandmothers will set aside so much money for the kids. You know, prime example with my father when he passed, he had everything set up to have a trust. He had his life insurance set up to where my mother didn't even have to go back to work. And like I said, it was a lot of things to where me being young and my dad passing, there was a lot of things he did that, like I told my wife, I'm still playing catch up on. My dad did so many profound things, spoke 7 different languages. But talked to my sister one day, she was like, "Man, your dad was a romantic man. He can talk everything from French, Spanish. He speaking several different languages." And she would always tell me how it was such a joy just to sit there and talk with him. Very knowledgeable about things. Been in the military for years, did so many tours, traveled all over. So, he was a well-rounded man, you know, and more or less, that's what got me more or less into looking into things about life, you know. And I've always said, talking with Alonzo, my great grandmother, the one who introduced me to life insurance. She told me young, you don't want to be a burden to nobody. You know, my uncles, she got on them about getting life insurance. My grandmother, her daughter, which is my aunt, all the family, you know, even with her next to kin, her brothers and nieces and stuff, she constantly got on them. Make sure you have some life insurance. I don't even care if it's $5,000. You're paying $10 a month. Get something just in case something happens. You don't want to leave a burden for the family to take care of you. And I'm gonna go ahead and try to speed this up a little bit. And far as the assets, we talked about that. Um, Cash, like I said, anything far as cash, stocks, and bonds, you got to have those assets set into a will to transfer for other family members. Other than that, if you're married, it goes to the wife. And the wife splits it amongst the kids. You have a good relationship with your wife, you're good. If not, she might not get those kids' name. So you got to actually put things in a will, you know, to properly, dish things out. Like I told my wife, there's nothing against her, but I want to give what I want to give. You know, let's say one of my kids, hey, I don't like you like that, son. I'm only gonna give you 10,000. If that's my choice and that's what I want my wishes to be granted when I pass. You know, and that's the thing with most. When it comes down to it, a lot of us, we don't have our assets in line. We don't have things properly done. So when anything occurs, we're in a situation at a demise. You know, when it comes down to all the assets being, filtered out and for everybody to have, all those assets are not delegated to the right people. You know, if I wanted my son to get 10,000, he might not get 10,000. My son might, only get 2,000. If I wanted my daughter to get so much, she might not get it. It depends. So you got to make sure that when you're writing these wills out, doing the trust, you know, prime example, like I told you the other day, setting up a trust, I would prefer my kids to get their money over time, a little now, a little later, or possibly, you know, in increments, within so many years, so the money can grow with you. I've always heard these horror stories of young kids getting money lump sums at one time. Even though I teach my kids everything now, who goes to say everything goes out the window when they get a large lump sum of money? Majority of the time, people will do that. Shout out to Alonzo. Alonzo did a luncheon one time, and he had a trust attorney. The trust attorney came on, talked about how she dealt with a case where a young guy, early 20s, both parents died. left this guy 1.3 million or something like that, or 3.5 million, whatever the lease. This guy blew through that money so quick. First thing he did was bought a house, bought a Ferrari, trips to Dubai, you know, partying all the time. And then when he sat down, this guy was almost like down to his last 500,000 because that was the biggest thing. You're spending so much money, but you're not bringing in assets. So, like they say, how does that work? You're sitting here, spend, but you're not, adding. So, what type of relationship you think your money's gonna have with you? It's gonna run away from you. And most people are not learning this stuff due to the fact that, no one's teaching them this. Your parents are not teaching you this. Your family members are not teaching you this. And that's the thing. Like I say, videos that a lot of times I watch on YouTube are entertaining. I do watch documentaries. I do look at things as far as learning because that was the main thing I came to YouTube for, was to learn things. When I had an issue with one of my vehicles, I would go to YouTube and learn how to fix it. When, I need to fix a tile or something, you know, learning to just, clean the grout out, remove that one tile and replace it, add in the grout versus redoing the whole floor. You know, there's tricks and trades to all these things. The thing is, learning the secrets and, adapting and working with them. Same thing with wallpaper. Learning how to remove wallpaper is crazy. I did a construction job, a demo, where I had to remove wallpaper. It took me so long. I was actually peeling off the drywall sheet behind there because that wallpaper was like, woof. And everything that you say, they had for removing wallpaper, vinegar and water, adhesive removal, all these things. The only thing that actually helped me was taking a bottle of soapy water, which they had that as well, spraying the wall down and using a plastic blade to remove it. A plastic blade. That was the only thing that helped, basically. Using a plastic blade because it mushed it up, took the wallpaper and skimmed right off the top. But say the least, like I said, getting into generational wealth, for one, having a business is the asset that can be passed down. Having a job is not. So a lot of times we look at situations to where we're starting and building a company, and we hear this term a lot, being a boss. And I joke about it and play as well. I'm my own boss. But the thing of it is, being a boss, you actually have to have employees. That was the biggest thing. The Brother Love show, what's going on, Brother Love? Bunny Rose, I see you. But like I said, getting into the biggest assets of, being a boss is technically having employees. A lot of times we talk about being a boss, having the status of being a boss. You have to have employees. You literally have to have employees to call yourself a boss. Having situations to where you can overcome adversities in that business, make that business thrive, having employees working for you that are dedicated, and taking care of your employees. That's how you keep the business growing. I might even speak on that as well later because, we always talk about the nature of, making the money, making the profits. But a lot of people forget they were in that shoe at one point. When I was running my non-emergency transportation business, I had a partner and we both worked, and his whole thing was making the money, profit. And I told him, I said, well, You were on the other end, as well as I, and I understand the dedication to the mindset of changing to, make the business thrive. But the biggest thing that I've always learned of making business thrive is always taking care of your employees. Wellness for Frugal Mama, what's going on? And taking care of your employees make the business thrive, and that's the asset that you need for your business. It's good employees. You know, okay, about employees in business, interests at heart. People literally will snitch. They will, hey man, get this guy out of here. This guy's not a team player. This guy's not working with us. You know, and that helps the team. That helps the company thrive when you have great employees that look out for the company because the company has their best interests. You know, but like I said, having that company, building up the status of the employee, generally how much the company's worth, that's an asset that can be passed on to the kids. Stocks, bonds, a lot of times, even with crypto, they have it to where if anything happened to you and you pass, they have like accounts to where you can have a predecessor to, actually assume all your wealth, assume all your crypto, assume all your stock. I forgot the company. I don't know if what's car has it, the one that I actually have on my phone. But I know it's a crypto company, and they have a key to where if anything happens, your crypto gets locked up to where nobody can gain access to it. If it upon your passing or if anything, because majority of times anyway, when people have crypto, they have it set up an account to where it's locked anyway, and you can have keys and ledgers. You can have USBs that transfer, which call a cold storage. A lot of times we'll get into that later. Having a cold storage to transfer your crypto on. Believe it or not, they had a guy who, you know, what was the game? Dungeons and Dragons or something, or no, I think was it Warcraft? I think it was Warcraft. Metal Gear or Warcraft or whatever. No, what was it? I think Wars of Warcraft. I think that was the game or something. But anyway, he had up to where he was meeting up with a guy to buy some skins or something like that for the game, guns or something like you can transfer now with video games. And the guy wanted him to buy Bitcoin instead of cash, and he'll transfer it that way. Crazy part was, guy never came to him to buy it, so he actually had the Bitcoin still on the computer. Going to his grandmother's house and end up going into the computer, finding that link to that Bitcoin. Took it, transferred it over into a wallet that was updated to this time, and I think the Bitcoin, it was crazy because I think it was like 75 or $12 or something to that degree that he was supposed to be spending $15, $20 or something. But I want to say it was about 5 to 15 or whatever Bitcoin, or maybe even more than that. But I know to the sum when he transferred it into the wallet, he ended up getting like $780,000 in cash, the value of the Bitcoin that he had. And he's like, had this whole story of dreams come true. There was something that they was gonna throw away this old computer, and he decided to play his game one last time and seen the link. So it's crazy that people have wealth sometimes and don't even know it. And that's another thing that people have, trust. People have different wills that are, technically found, and all these assets are granted to people. People don't even know. And like I say, getting back into it with land. Land is one of the biggest assets that transferred, and sometimes majority of the time a loss. You know, Like I said, I watch documentaries. Vice had a documentary on land being stolen from a family because they wasn't paying the taxes on it. You know, and the crazy part was the family. It wasn't like it was deeded to anyone because back in the day, slaves couldn't have wills. Slaves couldn't have, you know, trusts developed. So you would have the land transferred into the family. You know, all the kids and their generations. That's how you do when you go into probate. So if you go into probate, what's going on, Queena? When you go into probate, you technically look at all these generations of family members in that probate has to say, well, I don't want anything that this family member left. I don't want nothing to do with it. Or if they see his money in there, everybody's coming out the woodwork. You got third cousins on somebody's side coming up saying, well, if it's some money involved, I want a piece of it. So you have to literally go through the process. Normally it takes a couple of years. I know some people said that their probate took about 3 years because they still have family members trying to come out, reach out to get money. Sir, what's going on? New Year to you. Happy New Year to you. How you doing? And so dealing with that, the best thing to do is, have a will. A lot of times they have it to where you're spending all this money for a will. It's the same as getting like a poor man's patent. Sit there, get you a piece of paper, write out what you want, and get it notarized. Getting it notarized at the bank. Most of the time banks give you free notarized, you get notarized documents, or to the sum of you going somewhere and paying to get your documents notarized with your name on it. The person that's doing the notification, they'll authorize it, and then you just make copies of it and have the original somewhere. Or you could just, to make it be more authentic, have all those papers that you make copies of get notarized with the ink on there, and they're sealed so that they know this is the original copy. Or you have several of the original copies that are all notarized to where if anything happens, hey, this is what was instructed by the deceased to, actually make things go along smooth. Because like I said, when it comes down to it, a lot of people we don't handle our assets till it's too late. Most people on their deathbed trying to make things, get themselves together. And majority of the time, they're not worrying about who's going to get the car, who's going to get this. They're worrying about, man, I hope I don't die. Yeah. And majority of the time, there are. But a lot of people don't, take advantage of that. Even young people, they have different times throughout the year where they have lawyers that work pro bono and give you advice, give you information, help you assess things. In this day and time, you literally have ways around everything. But when it comes down to it, nobody wants to just take the initiative by doing the research on these things. And it helps a lot of people by doing your research and, technically, hey, dealing with these struggles. Because like I said, even in going to a nursing home, when you go into a nursing home, the nursing homes assumes all your assets, your property of the state. They take your house, they sell it, they put it into their company. If you're getting a pension, anything, it goes directly to them. I was just talking to someone yesterday where their family member was thinking about going into a nursing home. And I talked about this where the guy was making like $6,900 a month. The nursing home was going to take the whole $6,900, give him $75 a month to live off of. Because if you kind of look at it, everything was going to be provided for that person. They had food, they had shelter, they had their own room, and this nursing home was not a like a what do they call the rehab centers to where you have like a room, a TV, a chair, just like going to the doctor or going into the hospital. You see somebody in the hospital, they have a sitting area, they have a chair in there, they have an area where the doctor comes visit, and their bed and the bathroom in there. Most hospitals, built like that. This, when you go into these type of nursing homes, when you're spending that type of money, you're actually having a apartment setup. You come off an elevator, you going into an apartment setup to where you have a room. You actually probably have two rooms. You have a guest bedroom, you have your bedroom. If you want to bring your furniture, you have the furniture that's provided for you, or you can bring your furniture. You know, um, there was several jobs I did moving furniture. Did it on the side to where I actually moved a lot of elder people that passed furniture out of their retirement homes and the nursing homes, and they had china cabinets, luxurious china cabinets, all kind of crystal vases and vases, and things that they had passed down years and years. They brought it into the nursing home. They had real nice furniture, sofa sets that, they had handcrafted or built. One lady I know, she was a designer. So she was into fashion. She had her sofas built to her liking. She had wood on the arms. Um, the fabric, she picked out the fabric, picked out the different type of cushions up on her, everything was customized, and that was the thing. Yeah, when it comes down to it, a lot of us, like, you know, when we're not thinking of the what ifs, we're just living life. A lot of times that's what happens, technically with a lot of us and our money. You know, we're just living life, man. I don't have no care in the world. All of a sudden you get that you're at this stage of illness. Prime example, one of my friends, his mother passed, and his stepdad was like, man, I'm gonna take advantage of my health. I'm gonna start doing more. This guy would ride a bike every day. And when I say every day, he rode a bike every day. This guy was in his 60s. He rode a bike every day. Bought him a bike, bought him a helmet, rode the bike every day, went to the gym, did an hour at the gym where it was just lifting small weights, walking on the treadmill, started taking vitamins. He was doing everything with his health. Ended up getting hit one day on his bike. Went to the doctor, had a little bruise, didn't think it was nothing, and just wasn't healing properly. It was like running tests on him. Found out this guy had stage 4 cancer, and this guy, he went and got a checkup every quarter. After his wife died, he started getting checkups every quarter. Guy ended up getting stage 4 cancer. He was going to this doctor, went to this doctor for years. Doctor never said anything about the cancer. Ended up suing the doctor right before he passed and won the settlement. Got that guy out of practice and everything. Like, just, it was crazy. But say the least, you know, this guy ended up trying to do the right thing. You know, after his wife died of cancer, he tried to better himself, taking vitamins, doing what he needed to do. What's going on, Kay? And ultimately, he met his demise. But the thing of it was, knowing that he had this cancer at this short time, he was prepping everything. He ended up transferring everything over to his sons. He had his sons, which were his stepsons, had all them, everything that he had, he started transferring over to them. He got Man, I'm having a brain freeze right now. But he ended up having, that was it, not the will and testament, but he had everything transferred to where if anything happened during the process to where, something might have happened to him, his kids can take over, say that if he wanted, to pull the plug, everything. He had all the paperwork transferred over. But say the least, he was prepared because he knew he was at his untimely demise. And, the family and everybody was like, they don't know how he lived. He just thought it was natural pain of him being older to, e- experience some of the pain that he was going through. Some days were better than others. He had different regimens that help him deal with the pain. He had medicine that helped him deal with the pain that his doctor was subscribing to him, his primary care doctor. So he just thought certain pains were natural. End up having stage 4 cancer. I'm like, man, I don't even know what cancer he had. I didn't want to go into too much details with the guy, but when he was talking with me, and I was like, man, and the first thing I asked him, I was like, man, do your dad, not to really hit you like this, but do your dad got life insurance? He's like, yeah, man, this dude got $500,000 of life insurance after my mom passed, you know, and he has $100,000 just for the grandson because my friend, he was the only one that had a grandkid, and he loved that boy to death, and he just got a policy strictly for him for 100,000, you know, and it was in his name, even though his dad, you know, who's gonna be the steward over the account until he turns 18, but mainly it was in his name. And I was like, dang, that's crazy, and the thing about it, we never know. Like I say, the biggest thing with me, with my parents dying young, that's why I always talk on this life insurance. That's why my grandparents, they taught me about this when I was young. That's all we talked about. My great grandmother, older she was, she died like going into her 90s. And the thing of it was, a lot of times I talk to people and I tell them, I say, man, my biggest thing is trying to be there more for my kids, you know, and if me having to talk about this, be open about, situations in my family, things that go on that can help someone, you know, basically somebody might listen to my live and say, man, I might need to, get in touch with Alonzo and make sure, things that I have in play, the assets that I have, hopefully they're, good enough for me to do this, good enough for me to do that. Coming down to, the wire, talking about the generational wealth, that's one of the biggest transfers of wealth is going through with the life insurance. Because you got to understand, $1 million policy could go into the next generation. If you structure it right, if you have everybody set up, that $1 million policy, you can make it to where the average house right now is pretty much running about 250,000 for a decent house. And that's pretty much on the low end. People trying to find houses for 150, 180, that's like long gone, in the city of Atlanta, pretty much that's pretty much long gone. You'll find a couple of houses on the outskirts and they're halfway decent, but anything that's 150, 10 times out of 10 it has something wrong with it. It's got to go conventional because it can't go FHA. And knowing the guidelines with a lot of these things, that's why FHA won't let you get a house that needs so much work like that. Because with FHA looking at it, they're looking at, you know, you buying this home, staying in this home for hopefully a length of time. You know, somebody who buys conventional, they might have a little more money to assess the situation that can put more money into the house if anything goes wrong with it, because you're putting down 20% on a house. You either been saving, you have something that can, help you assess, deal with, you know, these upfront crosses, or you have, something in play. Prime example, I got a friend, I used to work with. This guy graduated high school, didn't know what to do with himself. He took this part-time job and he stays home with his parents. He said his mom told him that, hey, uh, me and your father want you to stay here. We're gonna let you stay here until you buy a house. You know, so if it takes about 5 years, 10 years, that's fine. You're a good kid. You're, our only child. So we're gonna put you in position to help you get a house. Father said, if you get the down payment, you know, we'll help you with assisting paying the payments each month, you know, teaching you the ropes and all this. I was like, man, you know, needless to say, this, this guy was, not trying to be crazy. This guy was a white guy. Most on average, black families are not going to be able to put their kids in this situation. That's the whole thing of planning for it. Now, not saying that black people don't do it, because like I said, I moved furniture. There was a black guy moved from California. Him and his wife both were high, like high ranking in their industries. Um, the guy, he worked for a telecommunication company. The woman, she did cosmetics, and there were a black couple moved to Alpharetta. How's an Alpharetta? Nice. This guy, minimum $1.5 million home. His son had a 745. The daughter had like a 640 coupe. The dad had like a I think it was a 585, because he just wanted a 4-door sedan. He didn't need nothing big and fancy, you know. And the wife had like a GL, like a something SUV. So all of them had Mercedes, black family, you know. And the daughter and the son were in high school driving these cars. The daughter was in the ninth grade driving that car, a coupe, 640i in the ninth grade. The son had an LI, and depending if you know like the different symbols of LI, the luxury editions, the I, it all goes the same thing with the Hellcats and all the, with those cars. You have the RT, the SS, the LS is all about the luxury sport, everything going into it. But needless to say, those kids were going to college. The oldest son was graduating. He had a basketball scholarship. The dad was already looking to buy him a house in the state he was going to college at. He didn't have to stay on campus, even though they wanted him to stay on campus because he was an athlete. His father was already providing him that. And I was like, man, just imagine if I could do that for my son. As soon as my son go to college, I buy him a house versus letting him stay on campus. That was the one of the things that me and my son was talking about when he went to Valdosta State. I was telling him, you want to look at buying you a house down there? He's like, I don't know. And that's why me and my wife was talking about. That's one thing that you can transfer wealth to your kids at a younger age. Going to college, helping them get set up wherever college they're in. With it being a college town, after that child graduates, they still can rent out those rooms and make money. So more or less, you know, generational wealth is the key. How do you make generational wealth? We could talk about that on another day, more or less, but just knowing about generational wealth, the process, how it works, what is generational wealth? What are the type of things that, create generational wealth? Is business a generational wealth? The assets that you have being a generational wealth, all that's being transferred. The money, the stocks, the bonds, investments, you know, I have a piece of paper that I have all my investments written down. I have all my passcodes to all my accounts, and I got a couple of accounts. I have my Google set up to where like my wife, she's tech savvy because she works in it, but far as the the breakdown of certain tech, she's not that savvy. So I have it broken down to where she can go on my phone, go into certain things in my Google. All my assigned passwords are set up. I have a app on my phone that's not linked to anything. And I read into the terms. Hopefully they're not lying and they're not getting me. But I have all most of my passwords set up in there. Even with my assets that are done, I've invested in companies. Just with Jay, what's going on with you, man? I've invested in companies. I've invested in projects. All those things are set up to where if anything were to happen to me and I pass, not only will my wife get the, you know, life insurance that I have, relatively the cars and stuff are automatically going to her too, but the assets that I have, what were the terms during the agreements that we had, you know, any contracts, anything I signed, printed out in my folder. That's just the one sheet. I actually have a folder dedicated to majority of my assets, my all my life insurance. I made profiles on these accounts. I have the account set up, showing how much the profile, garners. And, shout out to Alonzo. We have the talk. The universal life insurance, it grows. So even though I bought $100,000 worth of universal life insurance, few years from now, that universal life insurance might be a $500,000. It might be $1 million. You know, um, on schedule, if I get to 78, I have $4.3 million in that account. You know, on average, most men make it to 65 to 68. So to get into 78, that'd be a blessing within itself, you know. Then I got to think about my health conditions, That's why I always talk about men's health. Shout out to Big Duke. We had the discussion. I got to focus on my health. Shout out to Gold Professor always. He jokes with me and call me fat, but at the same time, he's letting me know, hey man, you have two young boys that need you. He's telling me, hey, if you want to talk about this life insurance, you got to talk about losing this weight. You got to talk about keeping your health, eating right. That's why I've been long stopped eating pork. I'm on my way to slowing down on eating so much meat because the process of things, if I want to create generational wealth, I got to enhance myself to try to stay within the generation so I can keep making more wealth for my family. You know, shout out to Alonzo. Alonzo's quitting smoking cigarettes. Like I told him, I need you healthy. We have the life insurance through. You gotta outlive me to help my kids. So needless to say, Alonzo, you can't go nowhere. You stuck. But more or less, we having a talk saying, a lot of times, that's why I joined a lot of guys online with the men's health and working with men, even though it changed out to where it wasn't what I naturally thought it was going to be, but still having the process of dealing with so many men online, it gave me a whole, you know, better outlook on me being, a man and dealing with my kids more to where I actually had to go back and talk to my oldest son to make sure I actually, more or less groom him in a way and, growing into being a man. And he said, well, we didn't talk as much. We mostly had fun. We played games. You told me this and that for a little bit, dealing with women, dealing with girls and stuff like that. But the actions in which he saw me dealing with his mom in the process, the actions in which he seen me go to work because he ended up having two jobs himself while he was in college, you know. So say the least, you know, dealing with life has its adversities. So we got to learn how to, go through life, deal with life, and still maintain life. You know, and like I said, creating that generational wealth starts within the family, starts within you. If you're a family of one, let's get it done. If you're a family of two, you're a family of 10, let's get it done. You know, whether it be the man has that conversation or the woman has that conversation. Getting the ball rolling, creating this generational wealth for the next generation. Like I told my wife, I was listening to Dame Dash. If anybody, I would say as a individual to be a role model, because my motto, my role models, my idols are people I can talk to and I can reach out and call. If I can't call Jordan, Jordan's not benefiting me in any way, but showing me his wealth and him dribbling the ball. Now my coaches, I can call these guys, talk to them. We have conversations. These are the guys that influenced my life for years. You know, I still deal with these guys to this day. Actually, one of my coaches now, I just started helping him this season in wrestling to, help him because he had a bad back. He just had back surgery. He can't do everything with the kids. So I reached out to him, working with him. These are my role models. But needless to say, Dame Dash was having a conversation. Me and my wife was talking about this to where he said he like third and fourth generation of wealth people. People who have generational wealth within the third or fourth generation. Because with them, they don't flaunt the money. They make life easy. They buy the things that they need and they create more wealth for the next generation. We can learn a lot from the Kennedys. We can learn a lot from the Rockefellers who still have money. The Vanderbilts blew through money, had parties, you know, never really put so much back into the trust, never really assessed it for the next generation. And ultimately, one of the richest families years met their demise because no one took the time and studying the laws, studying the wealth, making their, wealth grow. So now they're at a point of losing wealth. But needless to say, you know what I always say, I'm coming through, giving you the information. It's up to you. I don't have to tell you, I'm not a financial advisor. You already know, you here listening to the information. It's up to you to make your decision. Pescatarian garden, what's going on? It's up to you to make your decision to where you want to be on this side or on that side. It's easy. Do the research for yourself. You know, like I tell people, I don't have to tell you I'm a financial advisor. I'm just a guy on YouTube telling you information. It's up to you to impact your life by changing your life by putting this process in. And Queen already put it in there, so you know what time it is. We here and we gone.